Yo, what's up, y'all? I'm making this video today partly just to show off my fresh new haircut. I literally just got back from the barber's a little while ago, and yeah, I'm pretty happy with it. I haven't had short hair in like 7 years or something, and I feel like I am 20 again or something. I guess I don't look as much like Jesus now without the long hair, but don't worry, the Jesus is still here. Jesus comes from within, so that's never going away. The reason I'm making this video today is to do a little breakdown of the Wonder Woman 1984 movie, which I just watched today as well. So I'm going to go right into it. Of course, spoiler alert, major spoilers for WW84 are coming up. So yeah, I really enjoyed the movie. I liked it a lot. I thought some of the visuals were really cheesy for me, but the message was really deep, and that's what I want to go into. I want to talk about like the deeper meaning behind the story here, and the moral, the message. Actually, the moral of the story, I think you get it in the first 5 minutes. If you only watch the first 5 minutes of the movie, you get what the movie's about right then and there. Because it's Diana's in a contest. She's the only little girl against all these grown women. And she's got to get this target, and she ends up taking a shortcut to get to her goal. And her mom or the queen or whoever it is comes and says, nope, you can't do it, you can't win, because it's not true. You took a shortcut, and you need to face the truth. And she was pissed, but it taught her a really valuable lesson. And I think the rest of the movie was about that, about facing the truth and not trying to take shortcuts. So I'm going to just talk about each of the characters a little bit and what I got from the story of each of these characters. First one I want to talk about is Max. Max Lord, or whatever his name was. He comes off at first as the typical, the quintessential used car salesman, televangelist, promise to help you make $1 million kind of guy. And you can tell he's really putting it on. And it's not until later that you realize at the end of the movie, you realize that all of this grandstanding that he does actually comes from a sense of powerlessness. Actually, before I go too much more into Max, I want to talk about 3 roles that I'm going to focus on through this little breakdown video here. 3 roles that we all play at various points in our lives, and 3 roles that I think came out pretty big in this movie, and that is the victim, the victimizer, and the savior. So keep those in mind for a minute while I talk about these characters, and then I'll go into those roles a little bit more later. So Max, when you meet him, he comes off as this grandstanding promise maker. You soon realize that he's not able to fulfill his promises. And then later you find out that, okay, he's after this wish stone or whatever because he wants to do something shady with it, and you start to see in him a greed and an insatiability that the only thing that he wants is more, just more. That feeling of always needing more and not being able to be content with what we have and with what is always comes from a sense of lack and scarcity. It always comes from a sense of feeling powerless. It's an overcompensating for feeling that we don't have enough or that we are not enough. So Max, I think, actually, although he's quite clearly the victimizer in many ways in the movie, he got that way from being a victim. It gets revealed in the end, in the climactic scene. You see scenes of his father beating his mother and humiliating him for wetting the bed, and the other kids making fun of him for his broken shoes and stuff like that. So you see that he went through his own share of trauma, and he learned to identify himself as a victim, and then later, out of that, the greed that arose from that ended up victimizing other people. Another victim here is Barbara. Actually, when you first meet Barbara, she's super clumsy. She knocks everything over. The guy that she likes totally ignores her. Everybody pretty much ignores her. The director of the museum comes up and says, who are you? And didn't even remember that they'd met and interviewed twice. Diana is basically the only one who's kind to her and the only one who really kind of sees her as a person. And even Diana in the beginning kind of was like, maybe next time, but then she kind of had some compassion for her after that. And Barbara, the problem with her is that she, again, allowed herself to feel like a victim because of the way that people treated her due to the way that she showed up in the world. And so when she suddenly got powers, she, of course, used them to take revenge. She started by beating that guy who had sexually kind of assaulted her earlier, basically maybe beating him to death. We're not really sure at the end whether he lived or died. And, once she's in the plane with Max and they're on the way to the satellite station or whatever, she says, I want to be an apex predator, which I thought was a really, really cheesy line, Warner Brothers. But anyway, she, it makes the point. I could have done without the furry suit, honestly, but it makes the point that she just wants to hurt because she feels like she's been hurt. So again, you have the victim becoming the victimizer in all of these cases. She gets drunk on power, And with both of these guys, the two main antagonists in the movie, what you see, especially it becomes clear in the end, is that throughout the movie, they're both refusing to take a good hard look at themselves and face the truth about who they really are. They're unwilling to accept themselves, and they're unwilling to be honest with themselves. And so they end up getting power hungry and making these really bad choices as a way to compensate for their sense of feeling victimized and feeling powerless. The contrast to these two would be the two protagonists of the movie, which would be Steve and Diana. Steve, honestly, I don't have much to say about him except he was great, just really solid dude. He is a great friend and companion for Diana. I love how innocent he was looking at all of the futuristic things in 1984 because he had been... he had died in, the 50s or something in the previous movie, and he got brought back in 1984, and he was just amazed, and it was just really cute how innocent he was. But although he was just really innocent and kind of just naive about a lot of things, he was still willing to fight for what was right. And I thought that was really good. One moment with Steve that really stood out to me was when they were fighting the guards in the White House, and he grabbed a weapon, he grabbed a sword or something, and Diana said, "Hey, put that down. They don't need that. They don't know what they're doing." It was really kind of like a Jesus on the cross moment for me where he said, "Father, forgive them because they don't know what they're doing." Diana was able to see clearly that these people who were doing these bad things, they weren't really under their own control. They were doing things because they were kind of under a spell. And in a sense, really all people who do bad things are under a spell, and they're doing those things, as I said a minute ago, just to compensate for something that they feel they lack. And finally, Steve's biggest contribution in the movie, I think, was, of course, to do what Diana couldn't do herself and to help her to make the decision to renounce her wish. In the end, she had to say the words herself, but it was his courage that gave her the courage to do it. And so that was, to me, that kind of spoke to, as much as we all have responsibility to do the right thing for ourselves, and we all have the responsibility to face our own truth and make the right choices, it really doesn't hurt to have a partner. It really doesn't hurt to have a good friend who can sometimes just slap you into reality and say, hey, no matter how badly you want this thing that you're desiring, you got to face the truth. You got to do the right thing. And that's what he was for her. That was a great role that he played. I want to talk about Diana, finally, last but not least. Diana, of course, the main protagonist of the movie, she was the embodiment of the divine feminine. And I think that the main difference between her and Barbara, that was pretty obvious in the movie, was that whereas Barbara got her powers very suddenly and then promptly started abusing them, Diana had to earn her powers. In a way, I mean, obviously she was born with these kind of powers, but she had to go through all kinds of training, and she had to learn the hard lessons. Right in the beginning of the movie, you see her as a little girl having to face the truth, having to face the fact that you can't take shortcuts and you have to do things the right way. And so, you can assume that she's lived a whole life of having to face herself, make the right choices, be honest with herself, and do the right thing. And so she's able to use her powers for a higher good because she's done the hard work of facing herself and doing the things necessary to become the person that she wants to be. And of course, the core here, again, is accepting truth. When she was tempted, when she had Steve back for a little while, she was tempted just to hold on to him. She didn't want to renounce her wish, even though she knew that it was the right thing to do, and that keeping him, it wasn't true. It wasn't the truth. And so as she refused to renounce the wish and she held on to the thing that she desired so badly, she actually started losing her powers and she became more vulnerable to attack. That leads me to the next part, which, to move on from the characters, talk about a couple of principles here. I want to talk about wishes and truth. And the wishes were a major theme in the movie. And they were kind of like a dangerous poison in the movie, because every time somebody wished for something, they got exactly what they wished for, but then they had to pay an equally dear price for what they got. And I think this kind of points to the concept of deceitful desires, kind of desires in the more Buddhist sense of wanting something that isn't right for you or isn't true for you, wanting to hold on to a situation or a thing or a person that isn't true for you, or is no longer serving you, or is no longer leading you in the right direction. It's a constant feeling of not enough, of not being content with what is. And it's the idea of like Max said to his son, I'm on the precipice of something great. He just kept telling his son, just you wait, you'll be proud of me. I'm going to do this great thing. I'm going to make all this money and you're going to think I'm so great and I'm going to be wonderful. And in the end, the kid said, Dad, you're my dad. I just love you, dude. Like, you don't need to be great. You don't need to prove anything to me. And that was the lesson that he was missing the whole time, getting involved in these wishes and desires. Good things, they won't come tomorrow. They won't come later. I'm very guilty of this. I keep imagining that, oh yeah, I'll do better tomorrow. I'll start meditating every day tomorrow. I'll start exercising tomorrow. I'll just put this off until next week and I'll get it done. The truth of the matter is, tomorrow doesn't come. You either do it now or you never do it, because there is only now. The now moment is the only real moment. And if you don't do what you need to do now, you're probably not going to do it. And so I think that's another kind of minor motif of the movie, is the idea of facing the truth now and stop putting things off. Wishes are deceptive because they look so good. They look lovely. They look like such a great thing to have, and they even look like a good thing, like it's goodness. Like, I'm doing this for my son. I'm doing this for my family. I'm doing this for so and so. But in the end, you're always really doing it for yourself, and you're not being honest with yourself about that. And I think that comes back down to the main motif of the movie, which is be honest with yourself. And that leads me to the very final thing I want to say, and that is truth. Truth hurts like a bitch sometimes, but it is the only thing that can save us. As I said earlier, the idea of victim, victimizer, and savior. In fact, there are no victims, there are no victimizers, and there are no saviors. The only thing that can save us is the truth. We have to do it ourselves. We have to face the truth. Like Diana said in the movie, I thought it was a pretty significant moment. She said, nothing good is ever born of lies. I thought that was pretty intense, and I really appreciated that. We always have to do the hard work. We have to be honest with ourselves. We have to really look at ourselves and look at who and what we are. We got to stop running from it. We got to stop avoiding it, and we have to stop trying to fill it with empty wishes and empty desires. The very last thing, I said it was the very last thing, but I changed my mind. In the climax scene, there was a lot of really cool stuff going on there. where Max, he connected with his past, with the source of all of his feelings of lack and of emptiness. He reconnected with his parents in that moment. In a way, for me, it was very much like the black hole scene in Interstellar, that reaching across time and space to heal. I really, really appreciated that. And I really liked how you see in this movie that the villain is not inherently evil. In a lot of Hollywood movies, you have the villain, the hero tries to give him one last chance, and the villain just makes one last move to do something evil, and then the hero has no choice but to kill him. And I've always hated that. I think that just paints humanity in the worst light. And then the hero has to make this horrible choice to kill a human being in order to save others, and blah, blah, blah. It's just so tortured. But this movie was cool because in the end, he broke. He saw the evil of what he was doing, and he changed. He made the choice to face the truth and do better. And I like that because it shows that everyone is redeemable. As much as it was during the last scene, as it was hard for Diana to get that lasso of truth through all that wind of deception, I think that's a good analogy too, that sometimes we have trouble penetrating through that storm that deception and self-deception creates. But eventually she got through it, and she got through to him, and he did the right thing. And so I think this movie is very much a cautionary tale for all of us in many ways. That we all spend a lot of time running from ourselves, running from the truth, and instead we can just face it. We can face the truth, we can be honest with ourselves, and we can do so with a lot of love and a lot of self-care, a lot of self-tenderness. Final reminder that, as I said, there are no victims, there are no victimizers, and there are no saviors. We all choose to play all three of those roles at various times in our lives, and inevitably, one always leads to the other. A person who feels victimized will end up victimizing others, and then someone who victimizes others and realizes that it was wrong will try to be a savior to others. And honestly, none of them work. We all have to ultimately take responsibility for our own lives, and we have to take responsibility for being honest with ourselves and making the changes that need to be made. And on that note, I will say goodbye, and I hope that you all have enjoyed my little breakdown of Wonder Woman 84. And if you haven't seen it yet, I hope you didn't watch this whole thing, because I just spoiled a bunch of stuff for you. Peace out, y'all.